Facts First presents. A book collector finds out just how much this hidden title is worth, and it blows her mind. Before we get into this video, you can blow our mind with something that's worth a lot to us, clicking that like button. And also, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss our future videos. For decades, a tiny and tattered book sat inside a cardboard box with a collection of other titles that hadn't been opened for years. Books that had been all but discarded and completely forgotten about. On a whim, though, the owner of these books, after doing a little bit of spring cleaning and deciding to go through all of this stuff that she'd collected in the attic, decided to head down to a local presentation of the Antiques Roadshow television program to see if there was any real value to these books that she had been given many years earlier. On the inside front cover of one of the books was inscribed a message from the owner's great-grandmother. They talked about how the book had been handed down from her father upon his death and that she had hoped the book would continue to be passed down again and again through the generations. At first glance, the host of the Antiques Roadshow really didn't think all that much of the book that was sitting in front of him. But it didn't take long. All he had to do was read the title to discover just how much of a gold mine he was holding in his hand, and what he told the owner of this more than 100-year-old book about its value shook her to the core. The owner of the book, a woman that wishes to remain anonymous for obvious reasons, brought this small, tattered book up to Mr. Sanders, the main host of Antiques Roadshow. After brushing off a little of the old dirt and a little bit of dust, he was stunned to find that he was holding a book of hymns that had been published all the way back in 1844. The book itself was originally published as a hymn book for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but then he went on to tell her just how incredibly rare this specific title is in this specific copy. For starters, it's not all that common to see books in any condition that are more than 160 years old. Secondly, members of the LDS Church, they don't tend to keep their hymnal books around after they've become torn up and worn down with a significant amount of usage. A significant amount of usage that all these kinds of books saw back in the 1800s. Finally, this proved to be one of the first hymnal books printed for the LDS Church. It was printed in Bellow Falls, Vermont, and that made it significantly more valuable. But when the final figure was relayed to the collector from Mr. Sanders, she almost fell out of her chair. Mr. Sanders told her that a similar book, in significantly worse condition, had been sold at an auction just a few years earlier for $50,000, and that her book, the one that had been sitting in the attic for decades collecting dust, could easily go for at least that much, if not considerably more. With the right market and the right buyer, it wasn't inconceivable for this tiny little tattered book to go anywhere north of $80,000. That's not a bad return on your investment for an antique that most people would have thrown out with the garbage or sold for just a penny or two at a garage sale. As of right now, the owner of the book really has no intention of selling it. She remarked about the inscription on the cover of the book from her great-grandmother wanting the book to be passed down throughout the family, and last we heard, that was what was being planned. Obviously, it's likely the book will continue to increase in value as the years go on. And now that the owner understands exactly how valuable this book is, it has been professionally cleaned and it's currently sitting inside of a safety deposit box. I don't blame them. The odds are pretty good that people will not be reading the hymns out of it anytime soon, but it shouldn't take all that long with this title to be worth nearly 6 figures. Subscribe for more.